All right, welcome, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Heather Young, and I really appreciate everyone's time this afternoon. We have a very impressive group of companies that are participating today, and I wanted to give you just a quick overview about Winvale before I introduce our speakers. For those of you that have never joined us on a webinar before or don't know much about our firm, just wanted to give you a quick background. Winvale is a leading government sales consultancy and an advisor on business strategy and procurement. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., Winvale provides consulting, training, and GSA schedule partnering, as well as proposal and business development services to companies of all sizes across all industries that want to successfully grow and sustain business with federal, state, and local governments. Winvale's client portfolio includes over 1,000 commercial companies from small emerging firms to Fortune 500 and international businesses. As a GSA schedule contractor with more than $35 million in aggregate sales, Winvale knows what it takes to build and support a successful government sales program. Winvale clients and partners benefit from our real-world experience as a government contractor and value the fact that we truly understand what it takes to succeed in today's government marketplace. So without further ado, I'll introduce today's speaker, Patrick Dalton. Patrick Dalton currently serves as Winvale's Business Development Practice Lead, where he is responsible for supporting all business development activities within our practice. In this role, he is instrumental in developing relationships on behalf of Winvale's clients and assuring that their federal government efforts are clearly defined and executable. In addition, Patrick and his team are responsible for marketplace research and opportunity identification. Their work includes both large and small businesses spanning a multitude of industries. We're excited to show you our presentation today, and for today our agenda will be the fiscal year 2014 sequester and budget crisis, how to grow your government business, an overview of the small business contracting goals, what should be included in your government marketplace analysis, and how to market your GSA schedule. At the end, we will reserve time for questions and answers. And please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the presentation in the Q&A panel on the GoToWebinar menu on your screen. We will answer as many questions as possible within our time limit today. Now, I will hand it off to Patrick to get things started.
Thank you, Heather. The first section we will be going over is the fiscal year 2014 sequester and budget crisis. The Budget Control Act of 2011, also known as the BCA, created the sequester. The BCA was created as a backstop that was intended to force the Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction, also known as the Supercommittee, into action. With the failure of the Supercommittee, those automatic spending reductions were set into motion, scheduled to reduce approximately $1 trillion from the federal budgets between FY13 and FY21. The Fiscal Cliff Deal. The Fiscal Cliff Deal was struck on New Year's Day, known as the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012, or the ATRA. The ATRA reduced the size of the fiscal year 2013 sequester by $24 billion, from $109 billion to $85 billion, and it also lowered the Budget Control Act pre-sequester caps on discretionary appropriations in FY13 and FY14 by $4 billion and $8 billion, respectively. The FY13 sequester took effect on March 1st and reduced approximately $80 billion in across-the-board fashion all non-exempt discretionary or annually appropriated and mandatory spending programs. Fiscal year 2014 sequester. However, for the fiscal year 2014 mandatory programs, it will continue to be reduced in the same automatic manner. Appropriators are simply given top-line discretionary cuts for one defense discretionary and another for non-defense discretionary spending, and the power to distribute the mandatory reductions as they please. This means that unlike the chainsaw that was used in FY13 to make the cuts, Congress will have a scalpel for the FY14 cuts, so long as the sum of their individual subcommittee bills stay within those caps, which totals $967 billion. They can make any rearrangements to any of the programs or accounts under the appropriations as they see fit. Additional 14 sequester outcomes are $109.3 billion must be reduced from the fiscal 2014 budget, half from defense programs and half from non-defense programs. Each of the defense and non-defense reductions is then allocated between discretionary spending and mandatory accounts that are not explicitly exempt. The reduction to discretionary fundings are enforced by lowering the distinct statutory BCA caps on defense and non-defense discretionary appropriations by a total of $90.5 million. The reductions to mandatory funding are carried out just like in FY13 through uniform percentages across the board cuts to projected spending for all non-exempt programs, except that cuts to Medicare providers and plans and to certain smaller mandatory health programs are limited to 2%. Cuts to mandatory portions of funding for Indian health and community and migrant health centers are also limited to 2%. Therefore, on October 1, the start of the fiscal year 2014, the ongoing reductions to non-exempt mandatory programs will continue, except their magnitude will jump to 7.2% from the current 1.5%. For programs where cuts are not limited to 2%. A significant majority of mandatory spending will continue to be exempt from sequestration. Some of those programs are Social Security, retirement programs, veterans benefits, earned income tax credits, child tax credits, Medicaid, children's health insurance program, standard unemployment insurance, food stamps or the SNAP program, temporary assistance for needy families, and a host of other programs that are part of the safety net. All of those programs are exempt. As you can see from the chart presented on the screen, statutory caps on post-sequester for discretionary spending for non-defense and defense are $496.4 billion and $498.1 billion, respectively. As we discussed in the previous slide, for discretionary funding, lawmakers already know the statutory limits under which they are required to appropriate. Again, $498.1 billion for defense and $469.4 billion for non-defense. Therefore, they have the ability to allocate in a more rational manner than in FY13. The House and Senate are currently $91 billion apart on their FY14's appropriations. So what happens if lawmakers are unable to reach an agreement on discretionary appropriations and a reduced statutory cap levels and instead pass a continuing resolution at a higher level? Well, that is what we ended up going through in this most recent budget debacle. Because the BCA was not modified and we just passed a continuing resolution, we are currently operating at a budget that is equivalent to last year. Any sequestration of discretionary funding, however, would not begin until 15 days after Congress adjourns, most likely meaning January. The chart above on the screen shows the impact of the FY13 and the FY14 budgets as they stand right now. The FY14 can change, assuming the changes that occur in January or March when we have an answer from Congress. So what does all this mean for current government contractors, especially on the GSA program? It is Winvale's opinion that the GSA schedule program will maintain its position as the premier procurement vehicle with a significant chance for growth in the era of sequestration. This opinion is based on the fact that the scheduled program offers a fast, easy, and effective contracting vehicle for both government and commercial vendors. We also can say that Q1 and Q2, because Q3 and Q4 for FY13 have not been released, but Q1 and Q2 spending on FY13 was right on par with Q1 and Q2 from FY12. As soon as the numbers are fully released, we do expect to see either a no change or a slight increase between FY13 and FY12 spending. So the FY 2014 budget crisis. So as we all know, on October 1st, the government did shut down. On October 17th, the Congress had to have raised the debt ceiling, which did happen along with a pass of the continuing resolution. So this is a short-term deal, and on October 16th, Congress passed a short-term funding bill. The government is funded through January 15th, and the debt ceiling again will expire on February 7th. So by January 15th and February 7th, we'll see a lot more activity from Congress and it should clearly lay out the rest of FY14 and what we can start to expect for FY15. The contracting floodgates will open. So non-defense agencies contracted for only $1.58 billion from October 1st through October 15th. That's down 78% from the $7.5 billion spent in the same period last year. Agencies signed $1.7 billion in contracts on October 1st, according to the latest procurement data. After that, the flow of contracts slowed to a trickle to only a few million a day. So far in fiscal year 2014, the VA has awarded $859 million so far. That's the most by any agency, but that's down 61% from $2.2 billion in the same time period last year. Budget Control Act's cuts are alive and underway. The deal would provide discretionary funding at an annualized rate of about $986 billion, slightly less than the fiscal 13 levels after the automatic spending cuts of sequestration. Time is still uncertain for contractors. The continuing resolution and debt ceiling deal do not provide any certainty about the total government spending for FY14, creating a lot of headaches for us. However, we should see a lot of movement in January and February, and that should clear up the rest of FY14. And DoD personnel losses may be contractors' gains. So the DoD had to unfortunately lay off a lot of its contractors, which could be seen as valuable personnel for companies who are looking to either move into the DoD market or expand their DoD market by bringing on new employees and new personnel that have skill sets and contacts within agencies where your firm might be a little weak in. That is a huge gain for the industry. While a loss for the Department of Defense, it does nothing but help out vendors in the current GSA and prime government contracting market. Next, we'll discuss how to grow your government business. So the first step in how to grow your government business is to develop a government sales and marketing plan. And when you're doing that, you need to ask yourself a few questions. One of them is, what federal agencies should you target? You need to know which federal agencies you should target on, because there are 456, roughly, agencies in the federal government. Calling on all 456 seems virtually impossible. Having a targeted plan on which agencies spend money on the products, services, and solutions your firm provides will only allow you guys to have more success. Obviously, no different than in the commercial world, but who are the decision makers you need to talk with? Inside the government, talking with the program manager is the ideal person to talk to. But how do you find out which program manager you need to talk to? Are they going to be the program manager next year? What are their needs? That all helps increase the sales cycle and also leads to more POs from the government. Something to think about is, how do you currently market to the government? The government is no different than the commercial world. You need to market to them. It increases brand awareness and also starts to build that relationship between your firm and the government. And then who is your competition? Not all of your competitors in the commercial world are the same competitors you have in the federal world. Understanding which one of your federal competitors are being successful and which ones aren't, and how you can leverage that to increase your firm's win rate. The next is, who are your teaming partners? The government encourages teaming and partnering on its government contracts. It's also a great way to build and leverage past performance, whether build past performance for your own firm or leverage past performance from your partnering firm. These are all great ways to grow your government business. Next, we'll discuss, how do you sell to the government? So there are typically 3 avenues to sell to the government: sell direct, sell through, and sell with. Sell direct is when you contract directly with a government agency. This requires that you build a relationship with key decision makers for the solutions that you wish to sell. Not all decisions are made by the Washington, D.C. headquarters. Some are made by regional offices. For example, the Veteran Affairs Hospital has the authorization to make a lot of purchasing with local leadership, where other agencies might require you to go through HQ. Selling through will allow your company to act as a subcontractor and utilize an existing relationship held by a prime contractor. It allows you to sell on their GSA schedule while still building past performance. The next is sell with. When you sell with, it's just like teaming and partnering, as we mentioned on the last slide. You need to make sure you're finding the right team or partnering company, make sure that the past performance solution offerings complement what your company is offering, and make sure you guys have the opportunity in hand to go after. and work out all the agreements between the two firms so that way there's no misunderstanding on your end or the government's end on who will be performing the task. Next, we'll discuss an overview of the small business contracting goals. Each federal agency has their own small business office, and their primary function is to help small businesses in getting in the door within a specific agency. The Small Business Act establishes an overall small business prime contracting goal of 23% for the U.S. federal agencies. Within that 23% prime contracting goal are subcategories that have their own goal numbers. They are outlined below. 5% for woman-owned small businesses, 5% for small disadvantaged businesses, and that includes 8A, 3% for prime contractors for hub zone businesses, and 3% of prime for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Subcontracting opportunities and subcontracting plans for large multi-million-dollar contracts will require the prime contractor to submit a subcontracting plan to meet certain small business subcontracting goals. It's also used by the contracting officer to determine how well the prime contractors meet in their subcontracting goals. It's a great way to reach out to those large primes like the Northrop Grummans, the Lockheed Martins of the world, in order to leverage some of those, 10-year, multi-billion-dollar contracts where you guys can start to get a small piece of that pie in order to grow your firm's past performance, and then be able to leverage that past performance for either more opportunities with that prime contractor or leverage that opportunity or additional opportunities within that agency. This is a chart of the fiscal year actual spend for small business goals. I'd like to highlight a few of them. As you can see in the first column, the SDVOSB, the VA spent $3.3 billion last year. That accounted for 19.9% of their budget, and they spent 16.9% above the goal. The next is the woman-owned business, and that was just Commerce. As you can see, Commerce spent $443.2 million on women-owned business last year. For Commerce, that was 13.4% of their budget, or 8.47% above goal. The middle one is Hub Zone, and that would be highlighted in purple. As you can see, the Hub Zone spent the Department of Transportation spent $126.3 million on Hub Zone businesses, which was 5.7% above their goal. For the small businesses, which encompasses all these types of businesses, HHS spent 22.9% in FY13, or $4.2 billion. And for the the small disadvantaged business, which includes 8A, the Interior spent $629.9 million, or 26.84% of their goal, or 21.8% above average. Next is, what should be included in your government marketplace analysis? So now that we've talked about developing your plan, what do you need to put in that plan? The first is spending analysis. Review the agency's budget. By reviewing the agency's budget, you'll be able to determine which agencies will be getting an increase, decrease, or neutral fiscal year budget. This will help when determining which agencies you will target. The next is review the GSA contract spending. When reviewing the spending on the GSA schedule, it's important to look at the spending related to your specific category or categories. This will allow you to see the historical trends in spending based on your approved categories or categories. This will also allow you to see if there's any category that is what the trends are for categories that are related to your schedule but you're not on, so you can see should your firm make a decision to add a category or a special item number to their schedule in order to increase business. Review NAICS code spending. All of you are familiar with the NAICS codes. Understanding which agencies have a high spend on certain NAICS codes and which NAICS codes seem to be getting more utilization in the government right now will only allow you to position yourself within the government to take advantage of that and to see success and to find where the opportunities are coming from, and also which agencies are spending on which NAICS codes, which will allow you to, when searching for opportunities, understand which NAICS codes and where these opportunities might be categorized. Opportunity identification and analysis is also another important part of the plan, understanding where the opportunities are coming from. So the first is acquisitions.gov. You can find links there to all sorts of annual procurement forecasts, information on small businesses, business opportunities. The links are all over that website. It's a great website to go to really target those annual procurement forecasts that are agency specific. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with Federal Business Opportunities, FBO, or FedBizOps. It's a great place to find all sorts of opportunities that the government is posting. All federal opportunities over $25,000, though, must be posted on FBO. So you will find opportunities that are lower than that, but a lot of them are above that $25,000 threshold, and you also will be able to find potential teaming and partnering companies when scouring these opportunities by clicking on the Interested Vendors tab. The last two are usaspending.gov and fpds.gov. Both are great places where you can find historical contract information. These websites will allow you to search for a specific contract, historical agency spend, and gain an understanding of your government competitors with historical contract award information. So as we mentioned earlier, talking to the decision makers is one of the most important steps. So how do you get in front of the right decision maker? Despite all the rules and procedures, people ultimately make the buying decision. It's no different than in the commercial world. People buy from people. And finding the right person, hearing what they need, and telling them how you can help is essential, but it's not easy. So how do you find these decision makers? First, you can do it through networking. You can attend trade shows, agency events, pre-bid conferences, and you can also submit an invitation for bid or an unsolicited proposal. You can also call the offices or offices listed and make an appointment. You would want to introduce yourself and your business, provide a business card and a government capability statement, and show them a link to your government website, and then give buyers another opportunity to see who you are and what you can do. The purpose of the meeting is also to have that initial contact with the agency and make sure that your government capability statement is tailored to that specific agency. Competitor analysis. As we mentioned earlier, not all of your commercial competitors are also the same in the government. So who are your federal government competitors? Knowing your competition will allow you to have an understanding of the market. It will also allow you to see which of your competitors are having lots of success, which are not having as much success, and what trending they're having. Is this a company that was awarded a $50 million contract 5 years ago and they've sustained themselves on that? Or is this a company that has consistently won $10 million contracts over the last 5 years? Who are their federal customers? I think everyone would love to know that information. Where are your competitors winning that business? So by understanding which agencies they've had a lot of success in will also enable you to leverage that. So you guys will be able to take the solution that you guys provide and explain to that agency how it might better them and how you're better than your competitors. You'll also be able to look at the expiring contracts that your competitors have at that specific agency and leverage those into also winning more business. How does your price compare? One thing that a lot of government vendors don't utilize is GSA Advantage. GSA Advantage, you can actually go on and type in your competitors and look at their price list. Are your price right in line with them? Are you drastically above what they are? Are you lower than them? It'll also help you figure out where pricing should be when responding to RFPs or RFQs. And then what is their annual revenue average? So as I mentioned earlier, is this a company that is winning a $50 million contract 5 years ago and they're sustaining themselves on that? Or are they constantly winning $10 or $20 million contracts every year? By reviewing it, you'll be able to gain an understanding of your competitor's relationship with a specific agency and also with the government as a whole. You'll be able to figure out, does one of your competitors have a strong hold at the Veterans Affairs and you need to focus on another agency, or is that agency and the competitor's grip on it loosening, and does that make a better target for you guys? Next, we'll discuss partnering and teaming. As you can see on the screen, we do have a little bit of a partnering and teaming matrix here, and it starts at the very top at 12 o'clock with identify the opportunity. So when is the RFP release date? Who is the incumbent, or is this a new opportunity? What areas of the statement of work are you strong in, and where does your firm need to find a partner to help? What agency is making the purchase? Is this an agency that likes to spend on service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, or do they just look for woman-owned businesses? All that information will help you identify the opportunity and figure out if it's a good fit for you or not. The next is determining a list of partner companies. So after you've found the opportunity, you want to start to understand which businesses similar to you, whether they have a different set-aside or the same set-aside, which one of those companies would make a great partner for you? Do they have past performance at the agency? Do they have complementary solutions that'll make the RFP more complete? Those are all important things when you're trying to determine the list of partnering companies. Reviewing that company's past performance. Is the past performance recent, or is it a long time ago? Does it fit in place with the RFP criteria? A lot of RFPs will only consider work that was 3 to 5 years old, so making sure that the partner company's past performance falls in that time frame. Next, you'll then want to reach out to those top 3 companies and start to have those conversations and figure out which one would make the best fit for you. Once you've determined that, you obviously will need to form the team or the partnership for that particular RFP, or you can do a more general one for multiple RFPs going forward. And then the next step, obviously, is to respond to the bid and win the government business, and then continue the matrix from identify the opportunity. Partnering and teaming, again, is becoming more and more prevalent within the government. Contracts that were performed under, say, 6 to 10 contracts are now being performed under 1. It's helping the government have less administrative costs while also making contracts larger, requiring teaming and partnering to become more prevalent in the U.S. government market. Next, we'll talk about how do you market your GSA schedule. So what is government marketing? Supporting business development and sales by promoting companies' expertise, relevant solutions, qualification, news, partnership, past performance, and contract vehicles to help. It also helps the federal government gain awareness. It creates an image of credibility, and it also will help shorten federal sales cycles. Government purchasers are no different than us. When we want to find something, most of us go to our favorite search engine, Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Having the marketing appearance on the website and on the internet in general will only help your company be found faster. And also, marketing to the federal government is an important aspect many companies tend to forget about. Marketing to the federal government can be just as successful as marketing to the commercial clients for your firm. So where do you start? The first thing is you have to federalize your brand. You've already built your company and you've had a lot of success in the commercial world. Now it's time to take that same marketing message and make it government friendly. The first thing to do is to conduct a website audit. Most vendors' websites are geared towards the commercial world. Having a separate page geared towards the government will only help the government find you more. You should have certain information on that website. So obviously the products and solutions you offer to the government, and only have those products. Don't have the open market or the extra products on there. Really have it geared towards the products that you are wanting to sell to the government. You also would want to highlight case studies and white papers, and you also want to make sure that you have like a downloadable sales deck or capability statement. So what is a federalized website audit? So making sure that your website is government friendly is incredibly important. You want to take a look at your website and then compare it to your 3 government competitors. What do they have on there? What makes their website stand out on their federal page from the other competitors? And how can you take that information and leverage it to make your government website more successful? You also want to make sure that everything you have on that website is speaking to government. So having words like citizen and agency instead of customer and company will make all the difference. There's plenty of royalty-free stock images available online. That way you guys can make sure that you're branding everything the same. A lot of vendors choose to use images of the Capitol or of government buildings on their marketing slicks. Include a how-to-buy section. So for GSA contractors and other contract vehicles, make sure that that's easy to see on your website, and that agencies know that if they click on that, it'll lead them maybe to the link of the GSA Advantage price list, for example, so that way they can see the exact pricing and help to facilitate their purchase. By doing all this, you can help turn your website into a lead generation machine. So that way your sales and marketing team aren't having to spend so much time trying to find these leads, the leads will come to you. So your federal remarketing toolkit, there are 5 basic tools. The first is a business card with your GSA schedule and certifications. Now that might seem very simple, but it's an easy leave behind and it's an easy thing to do. Have all your business cards have the GSA schedule and the other contract number information. So for a NASA SOUP or a DHS Eagle 2, along with the NAICS codes and the set-aside. So if you're a small business or a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, it's just an easy leave behind, and it will start to set you out from your competitors. Have a standard federal sales PowerPoint. So having all the PowerPoint presentations that you present to the government be on similar marketing materials. As you can see on the slide, the Winvale has our logo in the top left and in the bottom right. Having a similar deck that is consistent for federal government will help solidify and cement that branding. Case studies. Case studies can include commercial as long as the problem that you're trying to solve in the government world is similar to the problem in the commercial world, if not exactly the same. Having that as a downloadable PDF will only increase the number of chances that a procurement officer or a program manager could download it to see how your firm solved the agency's issues. A white paper, very similar to the case study, can do the same thing. And a capability statement is just a 1 or 2 page front and back document that lists out all the important contract information, past performance, solution offerings to the government, and a contact. One thing I do recommend is don't make the contact info@company.com or sales@company.com. It's always better to have the government reach out to the government salesperson or to a sales administrator. That way they don't feel like they're just going to get lost in some random email inbox that is one of those do not reply emails. So the next 2 slides also list a couple of different links to additional marketing resources. As you can see, we talk about associations and forums. We talk about conferences, direct mail lists, and then the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration offices and the small business offices can be incredibly helpful. The one thing I will say is make sure when you're going to them with an opportunity in hand that you are interested in. A lot of companies try and show up asking for the Small Business Administration or the small business offices to point them in the right direction for government opportunities. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You need to show up with an opportunity in hand, and at least that way they can help put you in front of decision makers and additional contacts within the government. Again, these 2 sections, the publications and websites, they're great places to either find information on the government, so whether you're trying to find a certain person's phone number or whether you're trying to put out a press release or get a capability statement or something of that in the press, these are all great areas that you have the ability to do just that. I will say there's a few on there I don't have primarily relating to IT companies, so GCN. .com, FCW.com, Washington Technologies, and then there's a few more like GovLoop and GovEvents. These are all great websites to look for ways to get in front of decision makers, to reach out to the government, and to be proactive about it.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. That was quite a lot of information to get us in our 45-minute window here, but we will certainly have time to review and to follow up individually with anyone. We'd like to go into questions and answers now, so please go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A panel, and we're going to get to as many as we can within our 45-minute window here. We did receive a few before the presentation, and we'll address them now while you're submitting your questions. The first questions that we have, quite a few people are asking if the slides will be available after the presentation, and they certainly will. The slide deck and a recording of this presentation will be sent out tomorrow. Patrick will be sending an email to everyone that has attended with that information, and you can also watch our recording on Winvale's YouTube channel. So that is done as well. The next question that we have is, did Winvale see a drop in the GSA schedule sales from fiscal year 2012 to fiscal year 2013?
So as I did mention during the presentation, right now we are still waiting for Q3 and Q4 spending data to be released. The government shutdown did slow down that information. But based on the spending data that we do have from Q1 and Q2 of last year, spending was right on par. Certain contracts you did see a slight increase in. So for example, the GSA IT-70 did have a slight increase between Q1 and Q2 from last year to the previous year, but the final information is not available. My best guess is that you will see a neutral or a slight increase in certain vehicles, while other vehicles you will see a downturn. My guess is that the GSA schedule program will be one that is going to continue to be strong and most likely become more important for the government procurement officers.
Great, great. The next question is, how do I utilize the small business office? I've attempted in the past, but I've had zero success.
So utilizing the small business office is a great way for small businesses to definitely grow their firm, grow their government wins, and also gain a better understanding of the federal market in general. I will say going to them with a opportunity in hand and having done that research will only make them more inclined to help you. Showing up and asking for them to point you in the right direction, unfortunately, is just not what that office is designed for. I would say start with looking at procurement forecast and FBO, and then take that information and leverage that into going to the small business offices.
Great. And then this is another question that's sort of piggybacking off of the previous question. It says, I can't get anyone at the federal agencies to call me back or return an email. Do you have any tips on how to contact these agencies?
So I'm not exactly sure how you're contacting these agencies. I'll run through a few of the most common ones, and hopefully I touch on the answer. If you're doing a lot of mass marketing, government agencies get hit with tons of these type of emails every day, and a lot of times you're just getting put into their spam, or you're getting blocked and you're not even actually reaching them. If you're doing individual one-off emails, it might be the wrong email address, and they might be going through that process of changing over email addresses. A lot of government agencies are working on that, so there is sometimes a delay in that. Or quite possibly, it might not be the right person, and instead of reaching back out to you to let you know that, they could just be deleting the email. One thing I would do is make sure that it is the right person, and if it is the right person, you can go through it a couple different ways. You can continue to reach out to them, obviously reach out to an assistant, or you can leverage that small business office and explain to them that you've been trying to get in touch with this person, and they could kind of help navigate the internal office politics to make sure that that person does call you back.
Great, thank you. The next question says, what is required when partnering for a GSA schedule?
So when partnering for a GSA schedule, you're not actually partnering on the schedule itself, you're actually partnering on the opportunity. So you would decide which company was going to take the dominant role and which one was going to take more of that subcontractor role, or if this was going to be a 50-50 split. Again, that'll all be depending on what the statement of work says and if the contract has a set aside. But all that would be required to partner is to make sure that you guys do have some type of agreement in place that is written, that is included in your proposal, so that way the government can see the terms and conditions of which you guys are partnering together and how the partnership will work. And then make sure that in the response and in the partnership, each firm's roles are clearly defined, so that way you guys can avoid any type of complications or confusion internally with both firms or when presenting to the government.
Great. Yes, I think that was a really good question. We see that partnering and teaming, I think, is definitely going to be the way of the future for government contracting moving forward. So understanding that process is very important. The next question says, our GSA schedule was awarded about a year ago, but we don't have any sales yet. what can your business development services do to help facilitate government sales?
So as a government consultancy and GSA contracting firm ourselves, we get this question quite a bit, mostly because we do help a lot of firms get on the GSA schedule themselves. So right now with the government and the GSA schedule programs especially exploding over the past couple of years, the government and GSA is getting more strict on the sales criteria. As most of you probably know, or if you're just finding out for the first time, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, so to speak, but you're required to have at least $25,000 in sales in your first 2 years. The way that we can help with that issue is we can help lay out the plan. So which federal government agency should your firm specifically target based on the criteria of your firm, business size, set aside, revenue, past performance. We also will help with that competitor analysis. So who is your true government competition? We do a partnering and teaming analysis, so we can help you guys find a short list of companies that would make sense for your firm to partner with. We also review expiring contracts, so those low-hanging fruit, those kind of short-term opportunities. We do the annual procurement forecast. We help find the top 6 targeted government agencies and which program managers and which personnel inside those agencies you should reach out to. And then we do help develop a government capability statement and audit your website. If you'd like more information, you can definitely reach out to David Sandy, the managing partner, or myself, and we can get you more information and set up a time to talk to learn more about the particular questions you might have.
Okay, great. Well, we just have about 1 minute left, so unfortunately that's all the time for questions we have today. We will certainly be following up individually to all the questions that we weren't able to answer. And again, if you have questions after the presentation is over, please reach out to David Sandy, our managing partner here at Winvale, and we'll be sending out that follow-up email to everyone that attended tomorrow. So thank you so much again for your time today. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you will have a very successful fiscal year 2014.